Now we get all quiet.
Whoa.
We're live.
Looks like I was very confused there. I was watching.
Oh,
did you all get that? I had to listen to. I was listening to last week's episode while you two were talking now, and I couldn't tell what was happening. Just
You're
about to
in
freak
the,
out. Okay, now I got to turn
vortex.
that off. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm good. New lower sub prices in the Netherlands. Is that important?
Some sandwiches?
Yes.
All right, let's
Thank
see.
God.
How do I get the blue? You're right, though. It does look different. I don't know. I don't know what I've like. Because you want it like this news? Like this is.
I don't care.
Well, theme.
All right. So what are we broadcasting? Where do I put this in
What
Twitter?
are we talking about
the Twitch
today?
thing?
Yeah, I'd say the Twitch, right? Because that way people can.
What are you talking about? That's good. No more of this
Can,
Periscope crap.
Oh, Periscope crap needs the most love.
Oh wait, but it is playing Periscope crap, so never mind.
Oh God.
We
1Password.
We don't know what we're doing. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go crazy and post it in LinkedIn. Except we're in YouTube, right?
What, they won't let you?
I know. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. Is the lighting better? I moved the light to the front.
Yeah, it does look a little bit better. Good job.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
You look good, man.
Where?
My subscriptions. We're live now. This is good.
Right.
This is fun for streamers.
This is
only.
high quality content. Yeah. Where the
All right.
hell? I
You
can't
guys
find
got
the
Show
link.
notes? You know where the show notes are?
No, I can't find the link to the show notes in
All right.
this. No. In the Dropbox like menu thing, where does it put it?
In the Dropbox menu thing. Ooh, don't know. I know it's in.
It's not in sync history. It's not an activity, which
Should
is
be in
where I would
Slack
expect
right
it
now.
to be.
Right there.
Well, that's not helpful. I mean, that's helpful, but
Should just if you click on it, does it not take you?
yeah. If I go to Slack, it'll be fine. I was just trying to find value in the Dropbox menu app.
The only value of Dropbox that we find is it exports to markup. That's it. There is no other. We can't find another feature. Everything else it does. It actually has things you don't want. That's
It's terrible. We need to not use it.
There's something else we can edit where it
This
exports to
episode
markup.
not brought to you by Dropbox.
Yep. Yes. Hold on. Let me cross them off the sponsor list.
I was saying we should use that Hack MD thing. Don't the kid? What I don't know. What do kids do nowadays, Matt Ray?
We share. We can share that.
I do
in
have some
markup.
HackMD. Yeah, I think
You've got
HackMD
your
is
ear
a
to the
markup
street.
share thing.
Yeah. What do the kids call it now?
My
Well,
ear to
we're
the
not-
street is getting ground in like American X style.
We're not changing
No.
the tool chain every single episode. We're not working here. So
I thought we had to try something new every single episode.
I feel like we're pretty close. New
This
mics,
episode?
new
You too.
streaming, everything.
Restream,
I mean,
Cote's lighting.
live, Brian.
I'm just trying to
It's live.
go into LinkedIn so I can post our LinkedIn link. No, YouTube. I don't know what's happening. I'm very. It's 22:43. I don't know what that means. I'm not in the military.
It's 10:43 your time. Is that correct?
Yes, that's. I configured my laptop. I configured my.
You put your laptop
to
in
tell the
military
correct
time?
No. That's what I'm saying. Is it my laptop says 10:43 p.m. like humans would read it.
Yeah. Understood.
Yep. Am I echoey in this big room?
A little bit, but it's
Tiny
not
bit.
bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably more like Matt and I now than it was, before you had kind of the nice backdrop, cloth soundproofing. So it's good.
Oh yeah, I'll have to get my egg carton stuff going this
You have that?
sometime. No, I saved up a ton of them over the past year, and then I never did anything with them, so they were just sitting there. Very typical of my ambitions. Not typical. I don't know. It's the equivalent of like setting up a project in OmniFocus and then never actually doing anything. Just put it on, deferred.
Nice. All right, you guys ready? Do you guys look at these topics at all? Anything jump out at you? Good. Don't care. Oh, one thing, Coach, 3 sponsors this week. 3.
Three
so we got
sponsors.
to Clubhouse. No, not that one. Clubhouse.io is a sponsor for 3 episodes.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
No, not that one. What?
Yeah, Clubhouse.io, the project
gosh.
management software, is a sponsor for this one, but they're changing their name, so that's part
I
of
should
the
hope
ad.
so.
So I've got the whole ad
Okay.
redone. So
I was about to say.
Mhm.
I mean,
I
like
how you
they're
put
changing
in
their name
3
to get
ad
away.
breaks.
Hey, we're
Yes,
just
3.
Matt. Let me interrupt you. We're excited to have them on there and supporting them in their rebrand.
No. I think that's great. I'm just thinking about my next startup. I'm going to call it Salesforce.io. And
I think what maybe
ride
happened
that
here
wave for a little bit, change it to Microsoft and Oracle.
I think that what happened here though was the reverse.
Yeah,
I
probably.
have to go back in time. I think they had Clubhouse.io and had been working
Yes.
that way. And
Very Michael Bolton. Why should I
Right.
change my name? Those
and then
guys
they
are
got
the assets.
got hit by the brand police or whatever, the A16 Horowitz machine. And so what is the real Clubhouse? The Clubhouse audio URL is it Clubhouse? Anyway, yeah.
I got to
join
go
clubhouse.com.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right.
Is my I feel like my audio is out of sync in my monitor here. I'm gonna get something to drink, and then I'm gonna do something different that will not affect anything for you.
All right.
It's fantastic.
I think he's coming back with water or alcohol.
I like the topics, by the way. They look good.
Here, this is the best. We can now finally give live updates. Cote getting a drink. Go.
Okay.
Shows up on the. There you go. Matt, how do you like that? Look at that lower third.
Look
Cote
at that.
getting
Oh
drink.
yeah.
Look at that. I mean, now this is what people came for.
Whew, that's exciting.
Man, I have to renew a certificate on AWS using what's that certificate? So everybody uses and it's
Let's encrypt.
Basically every time I have to do what seems to be the most trivial thing, it's like it becomes like a 4-day project. So that's it's like every time I touch the keyboard, I'm just like, man,
Clearly you and I are on the same team. I had to change which domain I was using because I was getting rate limited by Let's Encrypt. So I was asking for certs too frequently. So
yeah, I don't know. It feels like certificates needs to be easier.
No,
just
of course.
much
they actually made it really easy. I mean,
they did, but it's still too hard for me. I don't know what to say. Like
they're like, oh, this free service is too hard. Well,
it is. They've made it free. They've made it simple. But every time people are like, just run this command, it doesn't work for me. I'm like, well, I don't have the right permissions. I don't know.
What service is that?
I don't know where the web dev directory is.
all right. So what are we doing here?
I think this is better for me.
Yeah.
Brian says your audio is better than last week. Now, of course, last week you were on AirPods.
Yeah,
so, I mean, you've stepped it up.
All right. So video.
Network connection 3 out of 10.
Not so good, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm sacrificing video now.
It's okay. We're a podcast. Yeah. I have a face for pixelation. All right. So we're going to talk about Elastic, innocent mistake, or deliberate strategy. All right, that sounds good.
Yeah.
The CAPTCHAs. What's that? I didn't even look at the A.
Well, it's just about CAPTCHAs are ugly. I thought we could talk about AI stuff if we wanted, because it seems like it's come up a couple of times. Or we can talk about something else.
I think that would be great commentary. I eagerly read that, and I thought I didn't read all of it, but I thought there was going to be some technical reason why they were ugly. But it was just it was interesting. It was that definite.
Hey, hold it. This is good talking. You're getting ahead of yourself. Hold your fire.
Okay. We'll talk about it.
Listen, hey, whoa, that's funded content right there. Let's not give that away for free.
Funded content. Oh dear.
I mean, we can talk about dogs and shit if we need to, but that is good content.
My dog is the worst.
And then I don't know, Matt. Do you want to?
I
like this. Matt gets rid of YAML. That's what I read. That's the headline I read in the Trigger Mesh previews. Integration language based on HCL. I don't know if you want to do a quick hit on that.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about that.
Then Cote, you had something and always greenfield reorgs. I'm always good for 5 minutes on reorgs, at least 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's good. So let's see. We got the Elastic thing, CAPTCHA, reorgs. Oh, and then Matt's.
Wait. Where'd the reorgs? Okay. Oh, there's no link for the reorgs.
Well,
is the reorgs gonna hit on the whole like? Now that you've moved somewhere, we have to cut your pay.
Oh, there you go. Look at you working in the news peg. God, professional right there. Hold on, let me get that.
I do host.
Just upgraded podcasts. You to associate producer. Before you were simply host. Now host and associate producer of the software.
All right, I'm gonna get myself demoted now. Did you know LinkedIn. In Australia?
Update the LinkedIn right there, man.
Did you know in Australia there are people who call podcasts potties?
I think you've told us that before.
The Australians.
So now every time I come down to record, my wife's like, "Have fun with your potty."
Always the Australians.
That's good.
Oh man!
All right, you ready, Kote?
Yeah, sure.
3 ad breaks. And I was going to say, although, why break with tradition? If you want to just do like a quick, any sign that you think is good, like when you want us to then let you finish and break, just give us like the high sign or something. But if not, we can do what we normally do. Matt can step on it or I'll step on it, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just shutting down all this excess stuff for more horsepower. That's another good effect of bad video on my end is I think it means I have more computing power for the good stuff. Is this the good stuff? I don't really know. All right. What was I doing here? Yep. Okay.
Wait. Nobody ever posted to Slack.
I put it in LinkedIn though. That's gonna get us everything.
All right, throw it in. You gonna throw it in the Slack?
I got it. All
right.
Yeah, I want to hit everybody.
It says my network connection is 3 out of 10, so you got to tell me if it gets to be terrible, and I can go plug into the
I thought you had I thought you were like primed in the.
I thought you got like Google Plus.
I sat in the wrong part of the room where I can't get to the Ethernet, but I'm prepared to plug in. I just don't want to be disruptive again and move. I mean, everything's fine, right?
Yeah, everything's good.
I mean, it's cool. 3 out of 10 on gigabit is sufficient, I think, is the issue.
Man, Australia wish they had 3 out of 10.
Yeah, Fortress Australia.
Oh,
that's right. Just put down the toilet paper and walk away. Your lives will be spared. All right.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Well, I know that over there in Sydney, Matt Ray is locked down and can't do anything. Meanwhile, I'll tell you what's going on over here in Duivendrecht in Amsterdam. We're using the IKEA app to configure some kitchen cabinets. Now, I don't know if y'all have experienced the IKEA app. I got a couple of things to say on this topic as usual. But the IKEA app, you put in your dimensions for your kitchen or your room, and then it makes a 3-dimensional model.
Is it phone or desktop?
Well, I haven't tried it on the phone, but we did it on the desktop.
Okay,
and
good.
I don't know. We should. I mean, I feel like it should work on the phone because the phone's just a little desktop.
Well, I know, but yeah, go ahead. I got thoughts on
it. Might actually be nicer. Okay, so we got it on the desktop here, right? Or more like the lying down on my back, holding the computer up in the air as the baby crawls back and forth over my face top.
So the iPad.
No. It was a laptop. But anyhow, you set up the dimensions of your room, and then you can spin it around, and you can even do that spinning where you slide on the mouse pad, the trackpad, and then you can select your cabinets to put here. And I was going through it, and even though it's kind of frustrating, I was telling Kim, I was like, boy, back when I made web pages, this would be science fiction that you could do this in a web page. And it's just things have come so far. That's all I wanted to say is, boy, you can do a 3-dimensional walking around, look at yourself in a Chrome sphere, all sorts of stuff just through, I don't even know what that is. Is that HTML7 or something?
Well, let's get to
it's VR.
The digital transformation question that always matters is like, well, is it working? Is it actually allowing you to configure your kitchen in a faster, more automated way? Or is it just like, close enough?
I think it is. Well, okay. I thought it was a yes or no question. I mean, I think it is. I think it's more than close enough, if that makes sense. And so I did manage to replicate, we managed to replicate the kitchen's dimensions. And I even managed to replicate the cabinets that we already have in there, which are not IKEA cabinets, right? And then you can even add in a fridge. Now, there's a little bumps here and there. Like, for example, we should be able to add a cabinet above the base cabinets going up to the ceiling, but it won't let us just drag it up there. But it's fine.
That's pretty
right?
high,
And they don't
right?
have a wine. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like the Netherlands, so you build up. You want to go up. The maximum amount is how things go. And
because
we had
this tall people.
Yeah, that's right. We had, what I've discovered now that we've moved a little bit out of the city, it's confirmed one of my theories, which is there's actually plenty of land in the Netherlands. It's just that cows live on that land. Like you get a little bit out of the city, and you gotta eat, so it's fine to have cows and crops. But like, man, there's so much farmland around here, just everywhere, that if you really wanted to, have more space, you just kill off some cows and take over their space. So you gentrify the cow fields is what you would do.
So,
but yeah, it's very, very, very green country.
Well,
but,
why you've been working this? I want one other thing. Like, you seem like you're in the actual use case. Does IKEA have the thing where, kind of the augmented reality thing where you can like pick the item, and then you can like put it on your phone and you can see what it will look like in the location? Have you tried this?
So now they went over this in the EBC that I attended. And I saw a cool demo in the App Store. And
IKEA ran an EBC for you just to buy kitchen cabinets.
Metaphorically speaking,
I love it.
Metaphorically speaking, yeah, that would be nice though, wouldn't it? Bring me in. Get to there'll be some designer who has had no pre-briefing at all and just kind of slides in. I like the EBC
the food would be
with
good
the
now.
executive.
They'd have meatballs. They'd have some nice meatballs in the back for you.
That's true.
Great.
That's true. So yes, there is something called IKEA Placement. I don't know what it's called, Place, and it has an AR thing where you can do that. And I was kind of playing with it, but I ran out of free time. I've only got about 5 minutes in my life at the moment, and I was excited that they would use, because my wife, she has the new iPhone with the LiDAR in it, so you can do like we've been doing the where you can do the LiDAR thing, and I thought like that would be perfect. IKEA surely must have this, right? Where you go into your kitchen and you scan the LiDAR model, and then it's like, boom, done, right? And like now you can just press random and we'll just show you random configurations for stuff. Because in theory, that's the whole point of the LiDAR scan, is it should be a more than good enough scan of all the distances that everything has of your whole kitchen, right? But no, it's just AR crap, which I don't think.
Okay, so it didn't work, is what you're saying? Is that your net?
Yeah, I mean,
it didn't work.
Well, I haven't used it that extensively, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It looked like it was going to have to be a lot of work on my part to get it to work. Whereas with the LiDAR thing, I mean, LiDAR is work. You've got to like move the camera around. I don't know what they call it in Apple land instead of LiDAR, but you move it around and it maps stuff. But there's an app that we use, and it's really good. It's like it shows you the part you haven't scanned yet, and then you scan it. And then you're done, and then it renders it. And like I feel like the IKEA people, they should make an app that has the LiDAR, and it's just like, scan this, we'll tell you when you're done. We're gonna have to spend like 5 minutes rendering it or 3 minutes or whatever, which is cool. But then you'd have this perfect model of your kitchen or your bedroom, and you could just you wouldn't have to take all these measurements. And instead we had to use a tape measure. I mean, it's tough life, but I just thought it was, I being more optimistic. It's just, I mean, I remember when we were using like VRML to like make the Shop US Mall or something.
Well, I was hoping you were going to tell us that you spent a couple $100 to get the Oculus headset so you could, move cabinets around in your house. Yeah. But
yeah, that would be cool with
it's coming soon. Metaverse. It's the new hotness. Yeah.
Well, the real test of the, they say that you don't want to locally optimize on any part of your secure software supply chain. So if we're thinking about the secure cabinet supply chain, I don't want to focus too much on this. The real next test is going to be if we go to the store tomorrow and we come in with our little model and we're like, this is how we started. I mean, we need to get on a whiteboard because there's some corrections. this washing machine is actually supposed to be a wine fridge, but you didn't have a wine fridge option, right? And so, we just got to swap those things in and out. It's almost like
there's not going to be like a click and collect where you just like show up and everything's ready and then you get to take it home. Man. You still have to go into the store.
Yeah, I think if you went to IKEA Build 2020, that conference right before the pandemic hit, I think they probably did have a demo where you could do that. Like you got the whole kitchen thing, and then you clicked ship, and then the flat packs show up at your door.
Yeah, right? That's what I want.
That would be great. No, but I think back to Brandon's question, the good or good enough. I think compared to not having it, it's fantastic. Right? Like you don't have to go in and measure it and things like that. Like we actually visited the original cabinet installer for that had put the cabinets in with the owners previously. And, it was it was just some dude out in warehouse land. They do this thing out here where like, it's kind of freaky compared to like America. The American stuff doesn't do this, but it's almost like there'll be these shopping sections that are zoned only for furniture stores. So like you show up there and it's all like furniture and bathroom and kitchen stores. It's not like Strip Mall City where it's like, you could buy. Yeah. Like it's not like Strip Mall America where there would be, a bathroom fixture place, a grocery store, inflatable toy place, a cell phone store, and then like, a toy store. Like just
you're just describing
it's all
Walmart.
Clustered together. But we went to the place and, the guy, luckily, since this is the same person, he had the dimensions of the kitchen and he had a little simulator thing on his computer where he could like throw stuff around. And, but if he hadn't have had those dimensions, like nothing would have happened, right? Like we would have had to measure everything. And then he also had the pictures from the previous install. So it would be a lot slower if you were paper and penciling it. And then 2 more funny anecdotes on visiting with this person. I'll have to find a video of this. But I was looking around the showroom. They also do bathrooms. And they had, I guess I've been in Europe long enough that I wasn't too like this. But there was one shower install where it was a stand-in shower on like the left. It's very nice. The height of European fashion is kind of like the height of like hotel stuff. How it's all chrome and 90-degree angles and stuff. So you had the shower over here. And then I did this video where if you spin around, you see my daughter standing there. And then you spin around and like there's a toilet right there behind. And so if you imagine like a shoebox, and on one side of the shoebox is a shower, and the other side of the shoebox is a toilet. And I'm just imagining how frequently in like a couple or a family life, someone is like taking a shower and someone's taking a shit, like right next to them. And I guess it's good because you wouldn't need a bidet. Like it's just right there. You just have to rotate. And then you're cool.
I think I stayed in that youth hostel.
And then also the other funny thing, we were talking with the cabinet guy and we were saying like, do you have you can tell when you've reached a communication gap culturally because you start repeating the same word over and over again. And we were like, do you have like a pantry? Like we want like pantries. And so he's showing us the stuff and we're like, no, like a pantry. Like, and finally I was like really tall all the way up to the ceiling. Like, that's what Americans mean when they say pantry. Like it's a whole shelf that goes up there. And then he kind of looked and he got out his big 3-room binder and he looked through it and he's like, oh, yes, American style is very different than Dutch style. And this is the grand conclusion that Americans have different tastes than Dutch people in kitchens. And I wanted to stay there longer and ask him, what does that mean? Do an analysis. What is the Dutch style and taste for?
He's probably got better things to do at this time.
I know. We stayed there for like an hour, and then we asked, and then Kim was like, "Do you do bathrooms too?" And he had this kind of distressed look on his face, and he looked at his watch, and he was like, "Yes." And so he wanted to have a little, he obviously had something else going on, and he was right because now we're going to go talk to IKEA. So that was, that I don't know how that would be scored in your Salesforce, but it was. I don't know, what is that? Your judgment
Not
call
good for the funnel.
Yeah. Your weighted risk analysis confidence index. What is it? What word am I looking for?
30%. You hit like 30% in the funnel, and then
what's the word I'm looking for, Brandon? You always know this word. The word where it's like, I'm 70% sure this is going to go through or something.
Qualification? I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. You're forecasting, forecasting, qualification, something like that.
Huh. Yeah. Well, anyways, sometimes we're a bad customer for him. That's the summary. But he also I don't think he liked American style.
All right. American style is 29 minutes. All right. New sponsor for everyone this week. Check out.
There's. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Sorry. I was just gonna say check out clubhouse.io. Throw it here in the chat. Go ahead.
.io. There's something where you look at the sales forecast.
Yeah.
Right? And
everything has a score percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for each account, the salesperson has to be like, here is the word I'm looking for that this is going to go through.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something as scientific as confidence interval. It's like, which is a good suggestion. That's what it technically is, but it's like,
I think people say like, I forecast it. I mean, it's usually by sales stage, right? Like, hey, it's sales stage 4 that's, you're saying that you're 80% confident it'll close, right? Or something like that. So normally.
Yeah. And then
depending on how many stages you have.
Yeah. Salespeople fight over if it's, actually 20 or 40. And then, the VP of sales is like, you can't cross that 30 unless you've identified your buyer.
Yeah. There's always it's always the same conversation. So who's the buying authority?
You can't hit 50 until you've been put in contact with
purchasing. Do you know who purchasing is going to do?
Do you know who your purchasing
is?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the same conversation every single week. It's like I do. And I guess if the salesperson is on, it's like, well, I know the answers, but if I say it's at 30, then they just reverse. It's like I don't understand why I don't have this at 50. Like, so it doesn't, so it's almost better to like be optimistic and beaten down than it is to say 30% and then been beaten up. So I don't know.
Maybe just get it right.
Suck.
Look at you, Matt. Listen to Matt. Just get it right. Oh, that is just, man, salespeople around the world.
Oh,
it's like telling the developer, like, why don't you estimate better?
No. Oh, yeah. No, I've been in those sales meetings and I just shut the hell up because it's like, whew.
This is the ultimate meeting.
It's
where
brutal.
The goal of the meeting is never information. The goal of the meeting is just the dance. So,
especially if you're not like part of that loop, you just sit there for like, 45 minutes without saying a word. You're like, I feel bad for everyone on this call.
Yeah, and you feel good about
it's not me.
Talking. Yeah, you feel good about
exactly.
Like,
and then you're like back channeling with the marketing guy who got dragged into the meeting.
Yeah,
no,
you're like.
And so then at some point there's like the PowerPoint is always brought up. Like the PowerPoint is wrong. I don't understand it. We had a better slide. This other competitor has a such and such. Like,
and the marketing guy comes off of mute. It's like, first I've heard of this.
Yeah, Well, are you using? And then it's are you using the latest deck that I sent out last week? And it's like no. It's like no, we're using the thing before, right? So that's great.
Yeah, and then you've got the slide where you can tell someone pasted a slide from a different template, and so all the colors are off, and then just like so frustrating.
Oh my God.
Our slide executive gets involved.
Have Russian.
The founder executive gets really mad, and it's like because it's like, no one's going to make as much money as you are, so we all care a lot less. But again, you can't really say that as well either. It's like this is another job for me. You're going to be a millionaire. I'm just going to be working. So chill out. All right, that concludes the QBR. Thanks for everyone attending. All right.
That's going to have to make it back into the episode.
That's a wrap.
Ready. All right, good day. Ready when you are.
This concludes the QBR. Thanks for attending. Goodbye and good luck. All right. What are we doing here? Oh, yeah. All right. I'm going to have to pass to you, Matt Ray, to explain the Elastic thing because I haven't read it. How about you, Brandon? You read it, right?
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
I skimmed it, but I don't know the details. So, okay, that sounds good. Well, one of my favorite things, I shouldn't say my favorite things. Let me start over again. Sorry, Brandon.
Okay.
Well, as everyone knows, one of our favorite topics is open source. And at the moment, it seems like Elastic just can't stay out of the bucket of open source funness. And now I think I saw the effect of this, and I unfortunately didn't take time to read it. So I think I'm going to need one of you to explain the details. But it looks like some code got into some Elastic thing that somehow, I don't know if this uses Bitcoin to do it, but somehow it says if you can't run a fork, right? Like it's trying to prevent you from running forks of it. But
okay,
so, I don't think that's
back to the bucket, Cote.
No,
back to the bucket.
Right.
Yeah, hold on. I was gonna say no Bitcoin in this. Not
no
yet,
Bitcoin.
No, there's
no anti-forking. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
is there blockchain?
Not yet, but I think they're blocking the ability to use blockchain also. So yeah, essentially, the first incarnation of this ongoing saga of late is that Elastic has updated their Python client to disallow non-Elastic releases. So, Elastic has a client that can talk to Elastic's branded Elasticsearch. Right. And if you're using that client, it can no longer talk to Amazon's OpenSearch. And so that obviously that started a whole thread of, are they doing this on purpose? And Elastic's defense was, well, we're just making sure we introduce some new features, and we want to make sure that we don't accidentally break your client. And
I like that.
As a developer, or part-time developer, or whatever, that smells really fishy to me, because clearly you don't do this in a minor release. You're like, oh yeah, we broke a bunch of stuff, and we're going to make it so you can't use us with anything else in this minor point release. That's bad semper. And secondly, you could just throw an error and say like, oh, this this is not supported in your release. You could throw that from the server side, and the OpenSearch people would never throw that error because they're not the ones having that problem. So this just smells bad all around. And it essentially looks like Elastic doesn't want their code to be used with anything but their product, which isn't very open source friendly.
So is this like how do you achieve that? Is that some kind of certificate thing, or you hard code some IP address? Like how do you ensure that you're not talking?
Oh, they're just looking at they're just looking at the response headers. So when you connect to the server, it says hey, greetings from OpenSearch 8.0, and they're like, you're not Elastic's 8.0. Reject.
I see.
And
I see. And then you couldn't flub it because that's a trademark, and then they could sue you for putting a trademark thing in the response headers or something.
Well, I mean, technically that's a bad workaround anyway, because maybe there actually is some difference between the servers, and you don't want that. So, yes, you probably could introduce some sort of thing to fake the client, or to fake the server. But then that's a bad workaround. Yeah. That's and maybe it's crossing a copyright line too, but that's just a bad workaround because eventually
it reminds me of, I don't know if this is still the case, but I feel like there was some point where like all the web browsers, IE and everything identified themselves as like Netscape. Like their headers were all weird. Like,
well, you can still do that today in your browser, right? You can set, pull out Safari and you can be like, I'm an iPhone, and like, you sure are. Let's serve you up some mobile, right? So you can do that, but
that's from the client
usually
side.
For developers. Yeah, that's from the client side, and that's the intention there is to like debug and test, not to have to fake it too much. And except when you're going to those websites that would only let you use IE. So that's the corner that Elastic's painting themselves into. They want to be the IE of clients.
All right. So the Python client looks at the server, let's just call it server metadata, the headers, the response headers. Yeah. And if it's not the commercial Elastic thing, then
I think to be clear, it's the version, right? It's the specific version.
It's the version 7.14.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Which is the 7.4, whatever version is it? It's the version of the official thing. And if you're not that version number, you're not the official thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So to be now, I don't know. I mean, it's one of these things at first glance, and clearly the narrative out there is that like it was done completely to just to essentially make life difficult for anyone that wants to use the OpenSearch stuff. So that's 100% the written narrative, and that's how it'll be talked about now. But if you go to the Twitter thread that's in the show notes, or for those listening in the chat here, you can see like one of the developers that looks like he I don't know. He actually engaged and said and offered up just an explanation of, hey, we did this because we wanted to make sure that one, we tell you not in production. We don't want to throw the error in production, right? We want you to know about it beforehand. And two, he kind of gives a reason about some history around what they were doing around versioning. And so I don't know. I just, from just reading his profile a little bit, he didn't seem like the spokesman you would send out. Like, it really felt like he was just providing information. Like, he genuinely was providing information that this is why it was. And he didn't seem like the spokesman you would put out there to like try to clarify everything. So part of me also just thinks like, what is it possible this was just a innocent mistake kind of thing, or or a technical choice they made, but it's just bad timing. It looks really bad on top of that.
There are plenty of technical ways to not do it that way, right? You could just say like, hey, we have a different API. If you use this extent, if you use this URL instead of that URL, you get those new bits. So or again, throw a warning or something to non-714 clients. Just say like, hey, you're using a deprecated client. You can easily detect that stuff on the server side and give them something like update your client. There's lots of technical ways to do it. Just straight up breaking things.
All right, let's go with your theory. It was done on purpose. So at what level of organization was this decided on? Like, did somebody, because that's the part I wonder, like, was it like it sort of happened in development and people are like, yeah, leave it like that, right? It's sort of just like they found it. Or was it like, hey, the next time we rev the client, let's make sure the client doesn't work well with AWS. And somebody at some level, I mean, we go product management, product executive, like, did they actually say that? Like, I'm like, I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that. I'm not saying
I agree that is hard to fathom that somebody just sat down and said like, look, break it here. I mean, I could see like, somebody, maybe it just got through that, hey, we only test with Elastic and we're going to have this, and maybe nobody thought about it. I mean, I would much rather assume that someone accidentally did it, but they didn't say this was an accident, right? They said this was intentional. So that's the kicker. Like, you could say, oh, it's a bug that slipped through, and we'll fix it with a nice deprecation warning, or some sort of error that allows you to update your client to work around it. But instead, it's just straight up rejecting stuff, and that's the part that makes it seem intentional.
How about this as a theory? In the iteration planning, they're like, hey, we're going to do this new change to the client. And it's like, well, if we don't support the backward compatibility and we don't do versioning or any of the ways you've outlined it, it'll take us whatever, X amount of points. But if we have to do all that other work, it's going to take us longer. And then someone said, well, who does that affect? Well, it's only going to affect people in the open source, OpenSearch. And they were like, okay, fine, let it ride. They were just like, it's just convenient. It was just like, well, we don't really care about that. And I want you to work on, I need you to get this feature done, right? That I could go with.
I could go with that, because that's still, that goes with the narrative of, we're not testing with other stuff, but they never seemed apologetic about it. That's the part that still gets me. There's just like, oh, our bad, if you send us a pull request, we'll fix it. No, nobody ever said like, hey, we're willing to fix this. They're just like, this is how it is.
True. Yeah. I guess it's sort of like we're willing to make the mistake and we don't really care about walking it back. That's
the thing. There's no like mea culpa of, oh, we sure would like to have, oh, pull request welcome. It's super passive aggressive, but somebody would would follow up on that. They didn't even say that. They're just like, no.
Mm-hmm. But do you think it helps the business of Elasticsearch? That's the part I just like, I don't believe, but I guess I don't never believe the licensing changes helped either. So maybe to me, it's all the same bucket of like, you're just kind of like the rise and fall or the success of Elasticsearch will have nothing to do with these decisions. This is just, it's just kind of annoying for everyone. It isn't going to really affect your revenue, at least to me.
Well, what's their how's their share price doing?
It's fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter, fact, right?
One of the listeners pointed out in the Slack that like since they've made the AWS fork or what? No, wait a minute. Sorry, I don't know. I'm not sure who forked whom here, but like since
AWS did the forking. Yeah.
So since Elasticsearch, changed the license. That was the thing. That their stock price had been up. Now I don't know. Like, is it causation there, correlation? I have no idea. But so I mean, the company. it seems to be doing fine.
Their
So,
ESTC is that ESTC is their what do we got here? They've been out for. Let's put it on max. Yeah. I mean, they're doing all right. Let's see. You had a what's their? I mean, they've been up to, at some point they were at 166.83, and now they're at 153.61. Right. So pretty good for and then when they opened up, they were like, I don't know, around 70 way back when in 2018. So
we probably
good for a
said they were
company
solid. Don't buy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they're preserving themselves all right there. So
Yeah, I mean, this
who
is
knows?
Yeah,
Who knows
they're
if
perfectly...
there's actual like financial analysts who are paying attention to what's in a Python script somewhere?
Probably
but,
not. Yeah.
But I do think the way it gets written about, though, the way that it gets written about, hey, Elasticsearch sort of, continues to push back against AWS. Now that I think analysts will read in the register articles. I think that'll always be on their radar. I don't think now.
But do you think they take that as a positive or a negative? Right? They're like, is it better for Elastic to be assertive against AWS and stand up for their IP, or is it better to be a good open source, member and build up the community?
I think
that maybe that's
good. Sacks by
yeah,
right. I think if that's my job, I'm going to write that.
AWS.
I think so. I think it is. I think you're going to write it from like, this is great, and you're going to have some like they're increasing the moat. They're building competitive differentiation. So I do think if you're writing your report, you would include that it's a good thing in there. Now I think if you're like the new stack, or if you're
new stack or Red Monk, or
people would be
people are like,
oh,
you're just torching your community. Well,
you're just making everyone mad, and they're going to hate you, and they're going to eventually leave because you've made it. Because this is the kind of thing that, I mean, back to the Red Monk thing, right? Developers are the kingmakers, I think is the line. It's like, I mean, if you start making the lives hard of developers, or they have to like maintain multiple clients or switch stuff out, this is the kind of stuff that will like. The developer works over the weekend. It's like, yep, I got rid of all the Elasticsearch stuff. We don't need it anymore. Like we're going, like that's the kind of thing that is motivating to developers to get rid of things.
All
right, good.
I think you. Yeah. That
was a good break. That's a good break. Sorry,
that's the break.
You're good. You gave me. Oh, who's the next one today? CBT Nuggets. Everybody go get some training on, I guess, OpenSearch. Here, we'll put that one in here.
2 more ad breaks. Boy, you're really doing a good job on stuff there, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm sure this is doing it.
This QBR went well.
47.
Yep. Brandon liked the deck. Everything got through the funnel.
Deck.
I
think so many decks. I just can't take it.
I think your comment, Matt Ray, is that's what the marketing person always gets to say. This is the first I've heard of it. That's great.
I know we did that section in the break, but we got to put that back in somehow.
All right, maybe that'd be
maybe trim some IKEA content.
yeah, we'll do. I don't know. We'll see if I can get it in there.
We'll put it in our Patreon only feed. Yeah.
Oh, the super subscribers.
All right, one more break, Kotek, wherever.
All right,
just so you remember.
Let's see what we got here. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do that. One more break. So we have a topic, then a break, and then wrap up. Okay. All right. Well, I asked this general question. This is the season I worked for. In this time of year, you sometimes have reorganizations. And I was thinking about this as I was reading headlines, seeing stuff going on out there in the industry. And I was thinking, how maybe there's a Harvard Business Review or a MIT Sloan, the MIT Think Masters. I forget what their magazine is called, but like there must be some study about how to make a reorg effective, because I feel like of all big companies I've worked for, they'll go through reorgs and like it's hard to know what the point of it was. Like it's sort of and in my mind, I was thinking through ones historically that I've been through in the past, and it usually is, it's usually like a collapsing of various product suites or business units into one, or it's the opposite where you pull apart. Is it ever the opposite? I think it's very rarely that you pull apart a BU into separate ones.
You carve things out though.
Always kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something gets
yeah.
too
I guess you
big,
could-
unmanageable, and you're like, all right, that's the tools team.
That's true. I think if you're in growth mode, like I would imagine in the early days of PCs, at some point they were like, we got to separate desktops from servers, right? Like we can't just and then in desktops at some point they're like, we need to separate desktops from workstations. Like these are different buyers and things like that. So I can see that you would disaggregate things, but it seems like it's more of just like kind of bundling up existing business units. And I don't know. I was trying to think of a historic example of when like a reorg at a company worked very successfully. It was like that. The issue was that the organization was not set up in the ideal way. And I didn't think that long about it because I got
I was going to say, Steven Sinofsky had his newsletter series about the early days of Microsoft and his time as Bill Gates' right hand man, and they went through all sorts of those reorgs, right? As they shifted because now we're doing DOS, now we're doing Office, So if you want a historical view, that's a place you can go and because he goes through a lot of those contortions.
Right. But I do think going back to the think about who what is the reorg I guess let me say it this way. Who's the customer of the reorg, right? And think of it that way, is that most of the time I think it is the executive team trying to build either a updated or a new mental model about how they want to think about and run the business. And then sometimes going so far as to this is the way that we want to talk about the business with investors. So it's important that, when we take to your thing about collapsing business units, it's like, well, we want to talk about this as one entity. And when we talk about financially, we're going to report it as one entity. And so therefore it's important to that group of people. But you as someone that's maybe in the middle management layer, let's say, of one of those business units, probably your job wasn't really going to change, especially if your product line isn't radically being shifted. So I think if you think of it that way, I understand why people reorg. And the other times I would say is sometimes it's just, kind of like almost back to computer science, is optimizing communication paths. Like if you just want two groups, you feel like they're not talking enough, or they're not, working. One way you can force it is make them all work, if you will, on one team, or give them one leader who will make them talk more than, say, if they're 2 or 3 business units away. And so, I mean, those things, I definitely see it happen. You can argue whether or not it's valuable or not, but I do see those things changing.
Yeah. I mean, that's okay. So there's a couple of good things there. One is for your financial reporting, there's all these companies, they want to report on their cloud revenue, so they bundle a bunch of stuff into whatever the cloud thing is. I remember, Sun. Yeah, and I mean, now a long time ago, Sun, I remember their reporting was always weird. I remember because I could never tell how much money software made. Software on its own was hidden somewhere. Hidden maybe is the wrong word, but it was wrapped up into some other thing, which was confusing to track down at some point, at least publicly. And then infamously, there's many companies that report on cloud, and it's not NIST definitional cloud stuff. It's other things, or it's very SaaS heavy, and you're just sort of sure. SaaS, what are you going to do? Right. There's a lot of money there. But but you're making me remember, I remember when I was, back in my analyst days, there would be very frequently sessions about how we reorganize things. And, the analysts are just let's talk about products, right? No, it's frustrating, but yeah, I guess there's reasons for it, but it just seems I have no conclusion.
No, I think you're saying the amount of time that I'd say this, the burden of change on the larger organization and the amount of time and effort it takes to do a reorg is, I'm just going to say, in theory, right? It's one observation is that it's usually not worth it. At the end of the day, if you do all of this and you put the organization through all this change, you should see some type of measurable, incremental type change. And many times you don't, right? It's just, it's not measurable to anyone except maybe the CEO when he's talking to an analyst, right? The fact that he has one bucket of numbers, but for everyone else, and it could be sometimes it's thousands of people, right? It creates a lot of uncertainty in organization, a lot of political conversations, and it's just like, in a lot of ways, it is not worth it.
So is it worth it to start messing with people's paychecks to, as they're working remote and start saying, well, since you're not in San Francisco, we're going to cut your pay 10% now. Like that just seems like a way to, accelerate your org change by getting people to bail. Is that intentional?
Now, so this would be the organization change of you are in office versus a remote person instead of the structure.
But they go together, right? If you want to encourage change in your organization, you start messing with people's pay. You move them around, you mess with their pay, and then maybe you shake out some of the people who are like, oh well, we didn't really want that guy anyway, so we're gonna dock his pay a little bit, change his org, and maybe we'll get some savings by people voluntarily leaving. I mean, that's the only explanation I see for that.
So I think there's two issues here. Let's maybe wrap up the reorg issue and then move on to one of my favorite topics: excuses to pay people less. I always enjoy that, but like it seems like. I think on the reorg thing, you reminded me of I got distracted by the cabinets, when I was thinking about them earlier. But you reminded me of the final thought I had on reorgs, which is, it seems like there's probably more. I always start with 2 and I end up with 5, but there's 2 motivators. Is the right word, but there's kind of the reorg you were talking about, or I was talking about at first, which is sort of just like internal facing. Like it's the organization figuring out how to run itself better, right? And, that might be because you've got a new executive or an old one, or these 2 groups don't work together, so you've got to collapse them together. So that I'm always suspicious of that, like if the incentives really align, because it's always like, we'll keep doing the thing through the financial planning year, and then we'll pick up on the new thing next year. So whatever. But like, so you've got that internal facing thing. And I guess that's where I always feel a little like iffy. Like it's that idea of like, should companies spend that much time where their product is themselves? But then the second one that I think both of you brought up is the one that's more intriguing and has better results, which is we're reorganizing either to look like what we would like the world to see us as, regardless of how we run internally, right? And I think maybe like IBM did this, right? Where they kind of, I remember the tail end of when I was at RedMonk, they were kind of always shifting themselves around, or at least the labels, and the labels kind of matched what their aspirations were. Yeah. And I haven't followed them that closely since then, but there's that whole cognitive business unit where I don't know what that is. I mean, I guess I could look it up, but it's an aspiration that they have, what their vision is. But then there's another, I don't know, there must be ones like this, but couldn't think of one. But there's another type of reorg, which is, no one thinks of our company the way that we're organized. They all think of it this other way. And so we're actually organizing it in the way that our customers think that we operate.
Right? Oh yeah, and that's always fun.
Yeah.
When you're interacting with them, as coming from the external, and you're like, wait, that's how you think about yourself? Nobody thinks about you that way.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's sort of like, I don't know. It's almost the positive version of the brown horizon, right? Where like the customer thinks of you in this totally different way, that you're not actually a cardboard box. You're not actually like a cardboard manufacturer. You actually make jigsaw puzzles, right? Like your specialty is something totally different than what you think it is, and the value that people, why people buy it. So that kind of reorg seems best, but I don't know the other ones. I need to find some literature on reorgs, what works and doesn't work. Now, to your second topic, Matt Ray, big time listener Jordy, he always has a good defense of lowering people's pay when they move out of a certain geography, and I think this is always there must be some style because it's very, in a good way, clever. And so, the case here, the whole situation is if someone is going to go from working in the office in San Francisco, it's always San Francisco or New York. They work remotely. So why are they paying a lot of rent in San Francisco or New York when they could move to like Iowa or something? And like, Yeah, and because they're already working remotely, I mean, you could pick somewhere. They could move somewhere in Maine, like to be on the Eastern Seaboard still, and then the companies, the lovely HR people in their spreadsheets are like, oh, right, but if you move there, we're gonna reduce your pay because it wouldn't be fair. I mean, it's always something about fair or regional pay is that. And to me, that's sort of like, so I'm gonna get paid less. Just there's no more. There's no more rationality.
Do
it's
I,
like
do
I'm
I
getting a
need
pay
to?
cut.
Yeah. And well, I'm living in San Francisco. Do I need to submit a rent statement because I've got 4 roommates, right? So I'm only paying $500 a month. Do you need to cut my pay? Because one of my roommates moved out. Now I'm making less. Can I have a raise?
There is that detail. So that's when you get off into like the programmers are going crazy. But Jordy did bring up a good point once, which was how did it's essentially like, on the other hand, if you are, let's say you're in, no offense to Iowa, let's pick something that's less offensive. Let's say that you are a
cornfields behind it.
Yeah, let's say you're a company in El Paso, right? And you want to start hiring people in San Francisco, like you're probably going to need to pay them more than you would pay someone in El Paso, right? And so that's the as I like to tell ways when he's talking about things not being fair. And so there's an instance where like, all right, well, if we're going to hire people in San Francisco, I guess we can't pay them El Paso rates. Like we're going to have to pay more. I don't know. But then you come back to
but go back to I think the issue here is not that geography affects pay. I think that's just always going to be how it is. I think the issue here is what really makes people mad is sort of, changing things in the middle of a deal, right?
Yes.
So it's like that to me, I think that's the part that messes up. It's just to say, hey, the fact that like, you're here, we've all experienced this global pandemic in our own way, and it's led to all these things. And then, okay, now suddenly we're gonna have all these new policies, which is sort of like enforcing change on a group of people that there's a certain status quo in place. And I think that's the real issue. Right. I think going forward,
it's two hops. It's two hops. So because you let people start working remote, right? So everyone started working remote. Yes, they might have still been in San Francisco, or they moved somewhere, somewhere else, but they were still making the same pay. And like, okay, now you're working remote. You're in the same time zone. You're actually still close, but you're not coming to the office. But because you were working remote, you didn't see the value in being in the city, and so you popped out to somewhere else. And now they're like, well, that's just a line too far. And you're like, but
right, well, I think that's the whole thing. It's like enforcing the change. I just think, to me, and I'm surprised to see Google, it's like there's a lot of ways this could have been handled much simpler. It's just sort of like, all right, understand that people have now relocated and maybe you're going to implement like a remote location. But going forward, you can then build that into your future offers, right? You can say like, well, there's some premium people are willing to like, maybe take a little less money on remote when they're going into a job. But again, they opt into that, right? They decide whether or not.
Yeah.
And then going forward for Google, because they have a very stringent, have a long, very long review process. Like it just seems like you could start to work these adjustments into the annual review process and adjust salaries that way, and just say, okay, going forward, you've done good work, this position, and then you can say you've done great work. I'm going to promote you and give you more money, or you've done fine, but like you're not in the office as much, so maybe you're not instead of getting the X bonus, you're getting the Y bonus, or you're getting, and just say, and you can kind of have conversations versus like forcing change on someone. So I think that's the mistake here. To me, is just like suddenly, making everybody reevaluate their pay, because then also too, it just leads to weird, perverse incentives in general.
Absolutely, and the thing about developers and especially developers is they're not used to their salaries ever going down.
Right.
I mean,
more cynically,
right?
Much more cynically, I would guess, right? My guess would be this will become a tool as an unfortunate ranking tool, right? Where it's like when somebody isn't necessarily doing as well, or they want someone to stay longer, right? Suddenly that person will be told all of the rules apply 100% to them. When you're a very high performer, did move to Iowa and has single-handedly like written every line of code in a very important project, probably that person is just like, that person is doing fine. We just let them.
And that would be how this
likely goes.
Yeah, and that's absolutely when you realize you are a cog, right? If you are in that organization and they're not going to make exceptions for you, you're like, oh, I'm a cog, right? And, either you're cool with that or you're not. And, if you are a recruiter for, anybody who competes, for developer talent, that's an easy pitch to make. It's like, hey, come to, company XYZ. We're not faceless automatons in the Google machine. Yeah.
I do, but I will be, I don't know, to defend's maybe the wrong word. I'll just say it's like, this is pretty common everywhere now. Like most places are going to have salary bands by geography. You're going to struggle to not find anybody that doesn't take it into account at all. So, I mean, it doesn't, it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe your point is like, everybody's a cog. You should have known that. I mean, maybe I'm just saying like why did you need to wait to this to know that? But I just think it's very common. And I don't know. So in this case, it's more a PR issue. Like the fact that Google, and maybe this is Google going one step too far. Like they said they have an internal tool that lets people estimate the changes, which is like the ultimate engineering Google way of doing that. Right. And it's like, yeah, how about not have that tool? How about just, deal with it internally and just
we'll fine tune the tool.
Just like, I think people with some respect there. Right. Like, so.
I think I mean, other than the point of like, no one wants to get paid less, right? Like so we got that covered, no problem. But I think you bring another good point up, Brandon, which is like, well, you can't change the terms of a deal after the deal, right? Like that's not cool, no matter what the fine print says. And I think the other thing that's infuriating, especially now, I mean, if you're like some sort of like couch manufacturer in like North Carolina that's just barely holding on or whatever, it's sort of one thing. But if you're like a big tech company that's throwing off billions of dollars a quarter in profit, and you're like,
it
would be. I mean, I know payroll is a huge component of all sorts of companies, but like it would be interesting to see like, but how much money are we talking about here? Are we talking about like $50 billion a year, or are we talking about $500 million a year?
Well, and that's why,
like, on the one hand, it's sort of like, like one of my favorite phrases is like, you don't make money by spending it, right? Like that's so maybe all those billions of dollars have come by not spending the money. But also on the other hand, like that's a lot of billions of dollars, right? Like, what are you doing with
let
that?
Me,
right?
in their interest, I don't know. Let me go the other way here, just so you guys can tear it apart. It's like the one part about that, and I see this all the time around, whatever company has X billions of dollars. And it's like, I think we have to think of it less though as like money in the bank, right? And more about what all of that company executives is about keeping that share price going up. That's what they really care about. And everybody has earnings projections to meet, to the QBR earlier discussion, right? Everyone's got to meet. You got to meet you got to meet your sales goals, and you got to meet your expense goals. And it doesn't matter the fact that you have $50 billion in the bank, like it's all priced in. No one's going to give you credit. It's not like your house, right? Or like, your personal finances where you're like, I got so much money saved up. My expenses are running low. I can just, I can really cut back. It's like everybody is on that treadmill, and that's sort of how the system is built. So the fact that it's not like, it's never about like, for most companies, it's not about like, oh, suddenly we're literally going to have to go borrow money because we've run out of money to pay people. It's more like we're not going to meet those earnings estimates,
it's
which
baked into
all
value.
the executives care about.
Sure.
And that is why keeping the expenses in line, whether it be salary, travel, whatever, even when you have the money, that's where people are coming from. So, maybe it's a brutal way to look at it, but that's how they're thinking.
No, that makes sense. But and then that also breaking the deal thing, which is if we're going to go, not speaking to any company that does this, but just the generic company, like if we're going to go down the deeply cynical unmasking path, that would suggest companies are looking for ways to make up the money that was priced into the share price, right? Like that some money because if everything, your share price is based on people's future idea of what your valuation is. I don't know, in theory, unless you're AMC movie theaters or GameStop or something, in which case it's something else. But
Please, no.
Look, but like, so that would mean that if people, and this is, if your staff went to go work remotely, in theory, that should not affect the numbers that are priced into your share price, right? There should be no effect on that. So from a share price perspective, there's no reason to cut people's existing pay because that was priced into it already, right? So, there's a point I think in the Register article that some professor of left-wingingness was saying like, well, by definition, the companies have proven that they can pay the people this much because they did pay them this much,
Yeah.
right? Like there's not an issue with it. So there is that's a odd.
But just finish that statement, right? It's like, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
They can afford to pay this much, but they're not maximizing. At least this will be the other side of that argument. It'd be like, they're not maximizing the amount of money they can make. And think about, as we've already seen in earnings announcements, one thing that is already happening, people are saying, companies rather are saying something like, as we look forward, our guidance, we actually think we may have some, for example, we may have some real estate charges this quarter, but the reason we're having this is we're actually going to get rid of a lot of this real estate as we move to a work from. And so therefore, for all the financial analysts modeling it, right, we would like you to like, our expenses are going to go down this amount, right? And then the next time at the next analyst call, I was like, we were able to grow and we're really happy that we're able to keep expenses in line. We found that like we can still pay people very competitive salaries, but by incenting them in other ways, right, we're essentially reducing our expenses. And someone, put it in the chat here, and it's like, the risk though is absolutely that you start to, as they say here, burn the talent, right? And so, that obviously is a risk, and there's a point where it goes too far. But I just think it's always like, we should never think about like, that's like a bank of money and they have the money. It doesn't matter. They have earnings to meet. That's what matters.
Yeah. But that's the sort of like, quant financial engineering that's like, hear me out. If we fired everyone, this company would be profitable for another 3 years. 0 salaries. All the contracts are lined up. We are a prime target for private equity, right? And that's what happens is people are like, you know what? That company is worth more dead than alive. And you are kind of going back and forth on this, like, oh, well, we got too many employees, and like, well, if we just cut some of them, we would keep that stock price going. It's like, you know what? If we cut all of them, the stock price would really goose, right? And then like, who cares about a year and a half from now? Who's going to fix those bugs, right?
Just think of all the new startups that kind of thinking creates.
Exactly. This is Google's beneficial for the entire open source world. Everyone's going to be like, now that I've been fired from Google, or now that Google cut 5% off my salary, I'm going to go do a startup, and we're going to implement whatever thing that I used to like working there.
But I think it's just the line. But I think what you're getting at is just the line, right? I just think of it more around like, this is the equilibrium every company is trying to figure out. It's like, I want to pay everybody so that they are motivated and they're here and they're excited, and I'm seeing good work product and we're making our goals. But I really don't want to pay them more than that, right? And I think, like there's another article outside of this one on Wall Street, right? The Wall Street bankers, we talked about that, is that I guess a lot of the analysts were just like, I don't want to do this job. So they've gone through, many of these Wall Street firms have had to raise that entry pay analyst stuff. And again, you're like, well, why does it even matter? And it's like, it's the same kind of thing. They've kind of figured out that like, I think in some cases they went from like, let's see, the numbers are out there. You can look at it, but they're all 6-figure jobs, but it's like, we had to up the pay and actually show them all ranked. And it's like, I just think it's like every company, no matter where you are, like I guess it's just to think of it this way. It's like all these companies, unless they're private, they have entire departments focused on figuring this out. Like, what is the salary bands we need people at? Can we keep them there? When do we have to move them up? How do we move them down? And they're always going to be adjusted. I don't think it will ever change.
So last test on this, as always, bring in Amazon as some fun test. Now, I don't know if this following is true, but we read it in the last book that the maximum salary you get at Amazon is $165,000. The rest of your comp is in stock, right? So if I'm at Amazon and I've pegged out my $165,000 a year, right? In theory, I can live wherever, and they're not going to adjust my pay very much. I don't know. Let's assume that it's not going to be adjusted, right? But then I also have a significant amount of stock, right? I mean, that's a huge part of my long-term compensation. So am I in favor of this, Brandon? Am I like, yes, pay me $150,000? No, in fact, pay me $100,000 because I have so much stock, and the numbers are gonna get so much better that if we do that with everyone, then my share price is gonna go up. So I'm totally cool, like taking a pay cut.
Well, I think it's clearly worked. I mean, it's one of these things. Like obviously, it's worked out great for Amazon because they've had this incredible stock run for a period of years. So, as long as you feel like you're actually seeing the compensation flow back through, and in this case, probably in the form of many times multiple of your salary, right? You're going to go with it. I think the problem for that's a different kind of treadmill. The problem there
You'd have
is
to have that demonstrated to you.
Yeah. What happens if the stock market, and again, like it may be fairly valued. The stock is so super valued now. It's like, how can you argue? Is it going to go like to 2 trillion to 3 trillion? Like, there's this point where it's like, well, at some point the stock appreciation may not be compensating for that low salary. But in the case of Amazon, I'm sure people have been telling them that for 15 or 20 years. And they're like, would you like to refer to my share price, our chart here? And I'd be like, well, you're right. It worked out really well for you. But that's it.
You got me this time, Amazon.
Yeah, it feels very, very unique because, I think the advice at most startups.
Yeah, it's too much of an outlier, right?
Yeah, if people ask me, right, not that it happens that much, but like if you're going to a startup, it's like, really up until like after the Series A, probably everyone, I would say, you should be asking for a market rate salary. Like there's just too much unknown and you're not going to have a huge percentage of the company, right? So if you're in really early, like you're, very early, then you would probably make some trade-off because you're getting so much stock that's actually a percentage. Like you could actually measure it maybe in a percentage point or two. But beyond that, it's like, no, like you're just not like the risk reward there is not high enough. So I think that's like a dirty little secret. It's like once you're a Series A, it's like most people are going to be asking for market salaries. And if they're not, it's like that's a big risk for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's troubling. That's what, no one likes to get paid less. I think that's all it amounts to. Just people want the money. No need to take it from them just because they want to live in Iowa.
I was lovely.
All right. A lot of Iowa talk today. Iowa, end on that.
That's it. There was at our previous house, there was an American who lived down the street, and she was from Iowa, and it's funny. Like she told me that, and I had the reaction that I learned from her. Everyone has, like especially Americans have, where they go, Iowa, huh? Like because how often do you meet people from Iowa? I don't that much.
It was awesome. The guy had corn, and he would take Zoom calls from his porch, and there'd be corn, just miles of it.
Yeah, and just imagine you could pay them $25,000 a year instead of $200,000 because they're in Iowa, even though they.
And the funny thing is, I think he might have gone to work at Elastic for a while.
Oh wow,
Iowa!
Wow, that brings it full circle.
Yeah.
All right, we good, Coach. We're gonna wrap this up on I don't know, at least some feedback conferences. We'll get out of here.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
All right. Well, there's well, that was stupid. Hold on, let me start again. Well, do we have any bureaucracy this week, Brandon?
We do have a few items. I want to thank Russell for writing in. I sent him some stickers. He's in Newland, North Carolina. Actually feel like I know North Carolina pretty well, but did not know where Newland is. So it's on the western part of the state. So thank you, Russell, for writing in. Happy to send you some stickers. Also sent stickers to Mike in Rochester, New York. And Mike sent me an email using, remember this? Hey email. I totally forgotten about email. And I was like, oh wow, you're like using Hey email. How's it going? So he says it's going pretty well. He seems reasonably happy with it as well. So I was just good. I had totally forgotten because I like the whole controversy, right? Wasn't there like everyone like left that company and people were mad? So
just like
hopefully, I hope some enterprising journalists will go back and like write the retrospective, like what happened? Did they hire people? Did everything work itself out? Is Hey email still going to take over the world? Like I haven't seen anything. So anyway, long story there. So thanks to Russell and Mike. But if you would like a sticker, all you have to do is send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I will be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And then finally, just want to give a quick shout out to Jordy. You mentioned earlier in the show. He has posted a job, so he wants you to become a senior software engineer at Weaveworks. So if you want more information on that, you should find Jordy in the Slack, and he'll tell you if it's a good job and if they pay you based on your geography. So I don't know, maybe he won't tell you that, but he'll probably tell you more about the job. So
he's in Spain.
So check all of that out.
Well, they're based in London, so hopefully they do not pay you on your geography. And if you lived in Iowa, you'd make bank with those London rates. You might have to sign up for TransferWise to move those pounds sterling to US dollars. But I don't know that. It's actually, Matt Ray, I found that if you have the right bank account set up, it's actually pretty cheap to wire money. You can wire money for like $25 a wire, if not less, if you have the right place. You don't have to use this TransferWise stuff. I wish someone would have told me that before I used TransferWise, because I don't even, like, TransferWise is very expensive. I mean, relative to $25 for any amount.
Yeah, if you have a fixed transfer rate, yes. If you have have a floating transfer rate, no.
And speaking of transferring money, did I tell y'all that when we were buying a house here and getting a mortgage, we had to multiple times. I don't know if y'all have ever signed these, or listeners have, but we had to sign those papers when we were doing adoptions. We had to do this, and it's like always 3 or 4 pages of papers, but that basically ask you one thing: are you a criminal? And you're just like, is there? The answer is no. Like when does a criminal ever put, like,
they have that question on there because they've caught people. Yes, no, that question is there.
Isn't this just a form of? Isn't this the old KYC? This is the know your customer. So they're really just getting that paperwork in line for the auditor, right? That's really all they. Really care about,
of course. Just like that, we asked that. It's just, someone probably has written some short story or book, probably not a poem, but it is like a very modern life thing of, like, we all, like, it's let me reduce it. There's that old saying that locks only keep good people out, right? And I feel like that question only confuses good people who are just like, I don't fucking do this. But the money,
were you asked multiple times? Because I think it's usually like provide some like passport or state license, right? So prove who you are, and then you write. Yeah. There's it's like usually one page where you have to like then assert that like the information you provided is accurate. You are who you are, and then you sign it once. Now, did you have to do it 4 or 5 times?
So I think we had to. There was at least 2 sessions we had to do this, and as always, Brandon, just clarifying things. There was a 3-page thing, and like over, I don't know, I haven't done like big money stuff in the States in a while, but over here they are paranoid as fuck about money laundering. Like they are like, and in fact, my bank ABN, they recently, get this, speaking of changing pay rates, this is like one of the most comically best things ever, is they recently raised fees to help combat money laundering. And coincidentally, I think about 3 or 6 months before that, they had paid a huge fine for money laundering.
Okay. I was going to say, my bank paid like a $5 billion fine for money laundering.
Yeah. And so, they're like, don't get me wrong.
Okay. Cost of doing business.
Don't get me wrong. Obviously money laundering seems like a big problem, but so back to your point, the last form that we filled out was, I have that saying that a mortgage is a document of every single thing that's gone wrong with a mortgage since humans were born, right? That's why they're so thick, is they have to cover every single case. And in this case, I think you could see all of the known exploits that money launderers use, because they would go down and one, they're like, I don't remember the wording, but it's like, are you a criminal? And then it's like, are you a relative of a high positioned politician in a foreign country? Or like, and then it's like, are you a sister or brother-in-law of a politician? Are you related to a former politician of a foreign? And it's just like, you go down all these questions, and you like, I have to force myself to read all of them, because I keep thinking they're going to switch the position of the yes and no just to make sure people are paying attention.
Oh, No.
Like those.
Oh, yes. I did have that.
In those forms, they are. That is not a test. That is one of the forms you probably just like, it's no inverting the thing. Yeah.
It's like that first quiz that you get in first grade, where like it has 20 questions, and the 20th question says do nothing that the previous ones did, and the first ones are like, stand up, and question 5 is like, jump up and down, and they told you to read everything at first.
Yeah, read the whole test first, right? Mm-hmm.
I obviously was embarrassed that I stood up and farted when I was told to do it, but it's just ridiculous.
But like, you got it, Cote. You're in the house, so it made it. You're not a criminal, so congratulations.
No. It was fine. And actually, the mortgages here are a lot thinner than the ones back in the States. It was fine doing that. Anyhow, you could be nice to be paid London rates living in Iowa. So there's also some conferences coming up. None in Iowa, sadly. I guess this is the Iowa episode. But we have our conference coming up, Spring 1, in September 1st and 2nd. Lots of great talks there. We have another one called DevOps Loop that I've been helping put together on October 4th. I did a little a little promo video, in that I mentioned it in a DevOps related thing. I'll put a link to it. But if you go look at my Twitter, you can see it. And you can see the chaotic nature of the inside of our house if you look at that. Also, that conference, January 17th to 20th, maybe by then we'll be able to come over as discussed last episode. But Matt Ray still might be in Fortress.
I got
should we
6 months of this? Yeah.
Should we be sending hockey masks and like Leatherman gear so you can just go all Mad Max, kind of just like get ready?
Well, I was joking to my wife that that's probably just a documentary from next year. The rest of the world is trying to live the normal life, and Australia has just gone full Mad Max.
Yeah. And just remember, you want to be the ones dressed in the loose-fitting white flowy outfits. That's not the ones with lots of skin showing and leather and studs. Doesn't actually, is that true? I think the villains in the Mad Max world always turn out better than the not like the leader villains, like the rabble villains. They
I don't want to be a rabble
survive. You want to have someone playing a saxophone to you up in the tower,
yes, or a guitar,
not be shoveling the pig shit. And then also DevOps World by CloudBees is September 28th and 30th, a virtual event. Well, we got all sorts of social things. You should join our Slack. We get an email that comes out every week with all the links that we talked about and didn't talk about. If you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com, you can figure out how to sign up for those. But with that, Matt Ray, what's your recommendation this week?
My recommendation this week is the Uniqlo Fluffy Yarn Fleece Full Zip Jacket. It's this black jacket I'm wearing. As my wife pointed out, it looks like I skinned a Muppet. But it is super warm. And I think they're on clearance because they look kind of ridiculous. But it looks like a Muppet jacket, but it's the warmest thing I own. And in these cold Sydney winters in my poorly heated house, it's paying off.
You should spend some money on insulation or something, Matt Ray. I think
it's not my house. That's the peril of renting. You are handed a bag of shit and you get to defend it.
The whole time you've lived there, you've been cold. Like, it's just very odd. But
summer's coming.
I understand though. If
then everything will be on fire, but warm.
Yeah. Do you got any? While we're on the topic, do y'all have any mosquito cures? What do you do?
We don't really have mosquitoes.
Other than closing windows. Let's assume that you want to have windows open and you don't have screens because you might live in the Netherlands, right? And so are you supposed to hang those like plastic bags full of water up? What do you do? How do you get rid of mosquitoes? Do you have your kids screech really loud? No, nothing.
It's not a problem I have. I left those behind in Texas with the Nile fever and whatnot.
Yeah, well, maybe the listeners can give us some recommendations over in the Slack channel. How about yourself, Brandon? What do you have to recommend?
A couple quick recommendations here. One, in addition to all the social channels Cote mentioned before, we're back on YouTube. So if you missed the streaming and you are someone that likes YouTube, look in the show notes. We've got our own YouTube channel now. I'm sure we're on our way to being the next Mr. Beast or something along those lines. But on a serious note, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, because I need enough people to like it or subscribe so I can actually get a real URL. So I'd appreciate it. Even if you never watch, just, come on, it won't take you a second. Just get in there and do the YouTube. And then my recommendation this week is I watched the latest Suicide Squad. It's on HBO Max. So I'm not usually into a lot of the superhero movies, all the DC and all that stuff, but I thought this was really good. It reminded me a little bit of Deadpool, and I should say a couple things here. It's definitely R-rated. It is definitely not family friendly. I also like that this doesn't require almost any real knowledge of the universe of what's happened before or their characters. It sort of just is what it is. It's violent, kind of funny, has a lot of crazy scenes. So I enjoyed it. But you got to qualify yourself into this. Like if you like the Guardians of the Galaxy or you like Deadpool, if you like that kind of stuff, but maybe a little bit more violent, you'll enjoy this. But if you're if you like all the story and you know all the people and every all the things that happened in the time travel and all the plot stuff, this is not for you, because this is just
is it on streaming? Is it on streaming? Because there are no movie theaters open in my country.
Okay, well, here in the US, it was available on HBO Max. So I don't know. Hopefully, with
I'll find it.
Hopefully, with a good VPN, or maybe just they should Warner Brothers should just allow Australia to have this during your fortress of quarantine. Hopefully, you'll be able to watch it now, right? So check
I'm on it. Thank you.
They should, the like Hollywood or whoever restricts this stuff, they should for the Fortress Australia, they should be like, okay, we'll relax the geographic.
We'll throw those guys.
We understand.
There are only 23 million of us, and we love Suicide Squad.
And they'll be like, the thing is, if you think about it, if they want to download the video, it's going to take them longer than the quarantine is going to last anyways. With the quality that they have over there. Well, my recommendation this week is I had to look it up, but it's the desk that I am not using right now, but that I've set back up here at the house and I used at the old one. And speaking of IKEA, I don't know how to pronounce an A with a little O on top, but it's the Paul Children's desk. Now, this desk is great because it has 3 adjustable settings, not with a button, but you unscrew it and then you can go down, so you can start with a little kid and then you can move it up to a second level and start with the big kid. And then when you move it up to the 3rd level, it's like, teenager. I'll have to find the picture that depicts this, where there's like a little kid at a desk, then a slightly bigger kid. And then the teenager one is the teenagers like leaning back in their chair with sunglasses on. And I think they might have like some bubble gum coming out of their mouth. But I like I'm not quite one to have a door desk like the 165,000 a year people, but I do like just a regular simple desk, and this desk has served me quite well. It's got 2 rails.
All right. And you're a teenager.
So you should check that out. Well, with that has been another episode of Software Defined Talk. If you want to get the show notes for this episode, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/315. All sorts of fun stuff to click on. And we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.
Cold Matt.
Good job. Made it through. Hey, Coach, I don't know. I think it's just you're actually got a couple times you kind of cut out a little bit. I mean, it's not too much, but at least on my end. I don't know if you heard that, Matt, but it's sort of
I'll have to hook up. Yeah, I'll have to hardwire it next time.
Yeah, the landline. Fine. Get closer to the.
Yeah. I just have to move across the room. That's all.
Well, is this your new office? Are you in a room? Like, it's just, I don't know. It looks like you're in like a living room or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm not in the office. I'm in the here. Look, I'll show you. Watch. Let's see.
Streamer's Delight right here.
See, I'm in this long living room, and over there, not the office. Can you see my finger?
Yes.
Over there is where there's an Ethernet cable.
Over there, that's where you should be next.
But that's not your. Is this not your office, or is this your?
This is a new table that we just got today. Like, we don't have any furniture, so we're very excited about this table. We finally have a table. So I was just sitting here, but
are you working right? Are you on vacation?
I mean, yeah. The office would have been the first thing I set up.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, priorities. Like, I would have set up the office probably before.
Yeah. Okay, so here's this. I'll make a short story here. We have this whole room we call the parlor. And early on, I thought I was going to have my office there, but I was not. And so I put my office up in the master bedroom because there's lots of space. It's in the attic. But right now, we record this at 10:30, so there's people asleep up there, so I can't record up there. But then maybe I could set up my office in the parlor now. But then we got Ethernet set up there with like 4 outlets when the electrician came. So I think I can drag an Ethernet cable from that room because the parlor is on the opposite. So it's right over there, and I got to drag a cable, and it's just like I don't know.
Got it. All right. Because I was gonna say, are you just standing? Or is that where you're working right now, or are you just taking some time?
No. So during the day, people aren't sleeping up there, so I do have a little.
So you go upstairs and you kind of have your gotcha.
Yeah, right, with the Paul desk. Yeah,
gotcha. All right. Well, good. Well, hey, thanks to all the streamers for watching us on Twitch. You can say you knew us before our huge viral hit on YouTube. I'm sure that's about to happen next. So we appreciate it.
Subscribe.
Like and subscribe. That's right. All right. Anything else you all want to say to the streamers, Kote?
No. I think it'd be fun to have a tool that vacuums up mosquitoes.
All right,
I don't
looking
know.
forward to that.
I feel like that would exist if it.
I think the same people
I think
that built the
little
weed torch.
lasers with LiDAR where they find them and zap them in midair.
Ooh.
Yeah. That'd
Maybe
be
this
awesome.
show. Maybe I should just edit the outtakes for this show. We'll just leave the show out. We had a lot of good stuff that's not going to make it in this.
I'm telling you, the outtakes are the intakes.
I don't know. We may have to reverse edit
the
this.
intakes.
I don't know. I don't have the power. So all right.
You do have the
everyone
power.
watching. I'm going to end the stream now. Bye bye.